Welcome back, everyone, to the Writer's Parachute. We're guiding author and writer dreams to a perfect landing. We want to welcome you today. We're a special bonus episode. We are bringing back 3 of our top episode guests from season 2 on all the podcast platforms. We have with us Loori Krein. Her episode is number 3 for season 2. It was released on May 16th, 2023, called Writing Your Way Through. And we're going to talk to her about the books we talked about then: Learn Chess, Reason to Believe, and Clean Bee. Also joining us is Loori Poland. She is episode number 4 on season 2, released on May 23rd, 2023. The episode is called Beyond the Pain, and her book, I Live Here. And also with us is Michael Stewart. He is episode number 8. A Thriller Education is the name of his episode, released on June 20th, 23. And we're going to talk to him about his book, The Hills Be Shaking. They are the top episodes for season 2. And we hope that you'll take a moment to go back and check those out. We will have links to those specific episodes in the show notes for you. Of course, we'd always love for you to go ahead and hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to share with your favorite fans and followers so that they get the benefit of joining us here on the Writer's Parachute. You can also follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, or X, and now on Threads at Writer Parachute. That's Writer Parachute without an S. Of course, if you would like to get the episode alert every week in your inbox, you can go to sendfox.com/the Writer's Parachute and sign up for our weekly newsletter that will give you updates on all that is happening with the Writer's Parachute. So let's go ahead and welcome our returning guest from season 2. So welcome back, Loori Krein. How are you?
Hi, Donna. I'm doing great. It's been a very busy year. I moved across the country, and now I live in New Jersey. So that's been fun, and finding a community of writers here down at the Jersey Shore. So that's been really exciting for me.
All right, awesome. So could you remind our listeners a little bit about your books and what we
Sure.
talked about on the podcast?
Today, remind people that I'm going to focus on the 3 children's books that I've written. So one is called Clean Bee, and it's about a bee who doesn't want to take a shower. And so he then starts to stink, and his friends don't want to play with him anymore. So he decides it's time to take a shower. And the second one is called Goodnight Bee. And this bee doesn't want to go to bed, so he pretends to go to sleep and then has an interesting little journey in his bedroom. And then he gets a little scared, so he comes back to his bed in his mind. It's all fantasy. And the third one is called Learn Chess. And it's all 3 of these are between the ages of 3 and 8. They're little poems, and they teach kids a little bit, some lessons about life.
All right, awesome. We're glad you're here, and congratulations. Loori Poland, how are you?
I'm really good. Thank you for asking. Thanks for having me back on.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, I think the listeners voted you on.
Oh, well, right. Well, thank you, listeners. I was talking to them actually.
I see. I see. Okay, can you remind our listeners about your books and the
Yeah.
book you talked about on the podcast?
Yeah, so my book is called I Live Here. It's a memoir. It's a story about my experience in life of being abducted as a 3-year-old little girl and then discarded in the pit of an outhouse toilet and left for dead, only to be found 4 days later by bird watchers. And then kind of the journey of healing and the ongoing experience of what happens after trauma, not just myself, but to people around me, but in general in life as well. And we also spent quite a bit of time talking about the nonprofit that I'm the CEO of, which is the National Foundation to End Child Abuse and Neglect. So it was a really great time talking with you.
Well, thank you. We're so glad you're here, and congratulations to you as well. Michael, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks, Donna. Great to be back on here again, and also just honored to be on the same stage with the other two writers that are here as well. So it's really cool to be a part of this episode. So I'll talk about my book here. This is The Hills Be Shaken. Here's the cover for, I guess, for the YouTubers. And it's a thriller. It's about a thriller mystery. It's about a dam that collapses in a small town and floods the town and causes tragedy. And they need to figure out what happened. Was it an earthquake? Was it a terrorist attack, possibly? So the FBI has to pull in some engineers to help investigate. And so it's about an engineer that gets trained to become an FBI agent and investigate the mystery. And I kind of like to think of it as John Grisham meets MacGyver. It's kind of an engineering version of it's an engineering thriller because it has a lot of, I'm an engineer, so I've got a lot of engineering in it, as well as a kind of a conventional thriller mystery. So that's my book.
All right. Well, congratulations. We're glad you're all here today. So I'm going to start with you, Michael. You have any new books coming out or that are currently out since we last talked?
Not since we last talked. I do have the novel I wrote before this one, before The Hills Be Shaken is out. That's called The Arch Emulator and the Seven Keys. And it's a totally different, it's still a thriller, but it's a different, kind of a totally different, it's more of an adventure thriller. And it's about a secret organization that's searching for an artifact that'll grant them great power, and sort of an Indiana Jones Goonies style adventure. So anyway, that's out. That was my first novel. And but I've just been spending time promoting The Hills Be Shaken, and also working on the follow-up to it because it's been so successful. I want to continue the series. And so I told you last time I'd be targeting 2024 for the release of the next book and the second book in the series, and I'm still working towards that. So
all right. Well, we'll look forward to that, and we'll talk to you about that a little bit more coming up. What about you, Loori Poland? Do you have any new books out? Any new books you're working on?
Nothing published yet. I do have two books in the works. One is called the Instructions Manual, the 101 on How to Parent. And then the other one is called Divorcing Right, and just helping people to understand the impacts of both of those things. Parenting is the hardest job that I think any parent can attest to, and doing it right or doing it humbly, I think, is key. And then divorce is very similar in the same fashion. It's just humans learning how to navigate a pretty significant and common thing in life. And it's both books. The divorce book it has a lot more narrative of stories from other folks and their experiences. And then the instructions manual is more of like a how-to and what happens when style. So both are really fun to be working on, and I'm excited for them to come out. I want to say 2024, but I wish I had the same deadline goal, Michael, but I certainly know myself and all the other things that I have on my plate. So I probably end of 24, maybe 2025, which I'm really excited about both of them though.
All right. Well, we look forward to those. Sounds like a practical guide to parenting and navigating all of these big life events and I think what's difficult about them is they're almost unexpected. It's like there is no preparation for either event.
Well, and I tell parents all the time, you're going to do it wrong. Like, plan on failure. And the great thing about that is that we are the safe people to catch all of the wrongdoings that our children need for somebody to catch. So, and though we are the attributor to the amazingness that our kids can be. So, You know, like there's just so many opportunities. And I think the humility piece, a lot of parents feel shame around their errors and the way that they parent and the things that they either did or didn't do. And I see a lot of times in my clinical practice, kids get very angry at their parents. And so, you know, how do we bridge those two things to normalize it and humanize it? That's my goal.
All right. Sounds like a plan. We look forward to that. What about you, Loori Krein? What do you got in the works? What have you got new out for us?
This year I published the Goodnight Bee. So that's been out for a few months, and now we're almost finished. The illustrator and I, and when I say we're almost finished with the third book in the Bee series, and it's called Green Bee. And just like the other ones that have a little moral to the story, this is also has a moral to the story, and this bee doesn't want to eat his vegetables. So he feeds the vegetables to the ants that are on the floor crawling around. And so then the ants have all this energy and strength and doing all these fun things. And the bee is very tired all the time, and he can't do all the things that he wants to do and can't play with his friends. So he, figures out that it's probably because of the vegetables. And so he starts eating them, and then he has energy again. So I'm very excited to get that. It's going to be out. We're shooting for February 1st, and if anybody wants to get on the email list for when it comes out, they can just go to my website, loorikrein.com, which I know you're going to put in the show notes later. But there's a form there they just have to fill out, and then once the book comes out, they'll get an email so that they can go ahead and order it. And I have a preview of, I know it's hard to see on this little phone.
Okay, a little more. There you go. Awesome.
But this is the bee sitting at the table eating his vegetables with the ants on the floor waiting and in anticipation for him to drop them for him. So it's been really fun to work on this. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, hopefully we'll have a pre-order link for you guys in the show notes to go along with the information. So we're very excited for that. So are you planning on extending it beyond Green Bee?
Oh yes. We're going to keep on going. Once that's finished, we're going to go on to the next one. We haven't quite come up with the title yet, but we have some ideas in the works.
All right, awesome. All right, well, I have another question for you along the same lines. Do you have any events coming up that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, sure. It's really a local event at this point. So if anybody's on the East Coast and wants to head down to the Jersey Shore on April 13th in Belmar, New Jersey, at the Belmar Pavilion, there's going to be a writer's, like a book fair. And it'll be, I don't know how many, I think 30 authors will be there, and it's from 10 to 3. And if anybody comes, it's going to be right on the boardwalk. So it's right on the beach, basically. And it's a really great little town, and there's a lot of other things to do here. So it's going to be a really great event. This is going to be the second local writers book fair event that's taking place. So I'm really excited about that.
All right, awesome. Well, I'll make sure we get all the information from you, and we'll include that in the show notes. Don't run off and grab pen and paper. We'll have it all here for you. You don't need to worry about that. So how about you, Michael? Any events coming up?
No, I don't have any upcoming events planned in the near future, just with busy holidays and everything, kind of taking a little bit of a break from that sort of thing. So for the winter. So probably be getting back into it in the spring, but just got a lot of other stuff going on.
All right, awesome. Well, of course, we always encourage our listeners, if you would like to reach out to any of these authors to ask them for school visits or events, or to be included in book fairs and book festivals, we will have the information in the show notes for you that you can reach out and contact them and get them to your event. What about you, Loori Poland? Any events you have coming up?
Yeah, I would just love to plug an event for NCAN, which is the National Foundation to End Child Abuse and Neglect. We at NCAN, we are all about promoting the voices of the voiceless. And so on April 11th from 6 to 9 at Pindustry, which is an adult what I call play place. It's like the play center of McDonald's, but for adults and 21 above. But it's a really, really fun venue in Highlands Ranch in Colorado. And the evening is called Release Your Inner Child. And everybody's encouraged to dress up as their favorite childhood toy. And it should just be a really good time of bowling and arcades and darts and all of the other things that made us happy as children. But really all of our events are just about bringing people together. And we have 3 authors on our board, all of whom are survivors. And we just really promote, similar to you, just that advocacy of educating and informing and sharing our voices with the world through writing and publication. So it's great.
Right. So now this event on April 11th, that is a fundraising event for NCAN, is that correct?
Yeah, it should be a good time.
All right. Well, we will go ahead and include that information in the show notes for you, along with a link in case you're not in the Colorado area, where you can still participate and donate to the NCAN organization. So very excited about that. That's pretty
Thanks.
thrilling. So Loori Poland, why don't you go ahead and update us on what's been happening with you your entire journey since last we talked?
Oh, heavens almighty. I feel like the older I get, the busier things become and the more complicated life is. But honestly, um, my book, I think we did talk about this. I know it's an answer I want to use in a later question, but sharing my book was challenging. It was my life has always been on a public platform because my kidnapping was so it was so
Publicized.
publicized. Yeah, that was the word. Thank you. And so I never really had like a choice in the matter, and then to actually choose to do it through my work, but then especially in publishing a memoir that I genuinely thought would take me 6 months to do, that did not happen. But it was this personal journey to write it, and then this whole experience to publish it, and then this whole other experience after publication and the reaction and response and the awareness from my friends and community and people that just didn't quite understand or know all the details, or even the aftermath. And so it's been enlightening. It's been enlightening to be that vulnerable publicly. I've tried very hard to educate myself and become a respected professional. So then to put all of my like dirty laundry in a book, in a memoir, per se, right? It doesn't have all of it, but it certainly is really raw and vulnerable. So I've done a lot of processing and also a lot of connecting with other writers in that same vein. I didn't think and realize how much I was not alone in that experience until our interview. So that was great.
Yeah, well, and and this is one of the things that people don't think about when they're writing books where they're this vulnerable. As hard as it is to write it and get those words on the page, it's even that much harder to go on a podcast or on a television station or radio station and talk about these very personal and poignant events in your life. So kudos. I'm glad you're getting that positive feedback, because Lord knows it could not be that way. So, that's always good. And, even in our darkest moments, we're always a shining light for somebody else. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that comment. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So what about you, Michael? Why don't you give us an update on everything that's happening to you since last time we talked? What's going on with you and your writing journey and your life and the world around us?
Yeah, I've had some exciting things going on. Last month I reached 1,000 copies sold on my book, so I was really proud of that. And then also a few weeks ago I hit 100,000 pages read on Kindle Unlimited. So I'll just go ahead and plug that while I'm talking about it. But if anyone has Kindle Unlimited, please, jump in there and give the book a try, please. But yeah, those were some milestones. I was really happy that, you hear a lot that, I can't remember the statistic, but I think 300 to 1,000 books sold is kind of an average for, for a book. So to hit 1,000, I'm pretty excited about that. I did earlier this fall, I did a book signing at a library that I knew was going to be a larger event. A larger event, there was about probably 50 or 60 people there. So I wanted to do something a little special for it. So I designed a bookmark, and it kind of matches the book a little bit, but I've got a QR code on here, and for to buy it and to leave a review, so that way when they're done reading it, they'll go back and leave a review. But I had to teach myself how to do a bookmark tassel, which I looked at a bunch of different methods and kind of came up with my own method. And so if anyone wants to do a bookmark tassel, I did do a TikTok describing how to do that. So because I made the bookmark also myself. But I've kind of just started dabbling in TikTok. Last time I was on, I didn't mention my TikTok channel because I'm just kind of getting into it. But it's Michael Stewart 8880. So if you want to learn how to make a bookmark tassel, the easy way, you can jump on and see that. And I'm always posting little things like that about writing, and then other stuff on life. So, yeah, that's some of the things I've had going on.
Well, I'm very excited, and I'm mostly pleased that you remembered to ask for those reviews. We spent the entire season 2 talking about reviews and how important they are. And it's like, and so when I see somebody being proactive that way, I'm just like, my heart's doing like cartwheels. It's like I do a herky, but I'm a little old and I don't want to kill my hip. So that's great. What about you, Loori Cowan? Can you give us an update on everything that's been happening to you since we last talked?
Sure. As I mentioned in the introduction, moving to New Jersey and finding community here, there's a woman who her dream has been to create these book fair events for local authors. Mm-hmm. So I participated in the first one that was held just a couple of weeks ago at a nonprofit building in town, and we had, I think there was like 25 authors there, and so that was such a great experience. It's really one of the first times I've been selling my books in person, right? Everything's been online, and so I got to talk to people and share the story about the books and the background, and people wanted me to sign the books and write, who it's for. And just having that engagement with like the audience and other authors, and sharing my experiences and their experiences about what they've been doing and how they market their books and create buzz about that. So it was just all the way around so much fun to engage with this community, and finding out that the woman who organized that, like, she has this big dream about doing these book fairs ongoing, like doing 2 or 3 of them a year. And I just feel so blessed to have been part of the first one and ongoing. So so that was really great. And I sold, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 15. I sold about 15 books in that night. And that's pretty good based on the fact that there was 25 other authors. There was about 8 of us that were children's book authors. And then there was about, the rest of it was other kinds of books. So, and we got to read a couple of our books. We had a little story time at all the authors. So we got to read to the kids that were there, and that was so much fun to actually see their reactions. Mm-hmm. And then I did another event, like a sort of a little holiday fair, and there was craft items and stuff and food that people were selling. I was the only person selling books, and again, I did pretty well. I sold again around 15 of my books there. So it's been such a whirlwind of, this is the first time I'm getting it out there in public, I guess, in person, and I'm just looking forward to doing more of that. So it's really exciting for me.
Yeah. I absolutely love doing events. Now I do prefer the smaller events to the larger events because sometimes it feels like, you go to these big book festivals and it's like, everybody's like a kid in this book candy store and, and it's like they can only buy so many books, not only because of the expense, but the ability to transport, books, which do weigh a bit. And so, you have to think of really inventive ways to get their attention
Yes.
and also inventive ways to let them walk away with some kind of material that will remind them of your book. So they'll, because I get just as many back sales as I do event sales, and you have to really work hard about it. But what I love about it is the conversations you get to have with your fans and readers.
Yes, and I also so because I have another book coming out, I was trying to think of ways to get people engaged with that. So I created a giveaway.
Mhm.
So if they put down their email and their name on this piece of paper, they signed up. I was going to pick one winner for
Mhm.
the new book, and of course then I collect other potential readers, and so I will email them and be like, oh hey, I'm sorry, but the book will be out, and just let them know when the book is out. So hopefully kind of get some traffic that way as well. So that was really fun. And I created a little slideshow on my iPad of the illustrations that we've gotten done for the new book as well. So that was kind of going on the whole time. So people can get an idea of what it was going to look like. Yeah, it was fun.
There's always so many more fun and interesting ways to promote books out in public. It's a little bit different than, again, some of the smaller fairs are a little more flexible with allowing you to do that just on the whim. Some of the larger ones, you have to get permission for that sort of thing to begin with. But, it's just think outside the box. I mean, that's
Yeah.
totally it. It's like I went to one festival and I really was, you just saw a lot of the looky-loos, people just walking by going, I pulled out my character puppet and I stepped outside and I started having a conversation with me and my puppet. It's one of my more famous photographs. And so we were having an argument with my puppet about who was going to hold the microphone, whether they were there to see me because I wrote the book or whether they were there to see him because he was the lead character. And I turned around because this was just me getting into character, and there was like a sea of kids and parents, and they ended up sending security because the traffic flow had just suddenly stopped and they couldn't figure out why. But you don't plan those things. It was just like, well, it's like I'm gonna at least have fun. And, it's like do something that's fun. And I'm always amazed at how quick, just pulling out those puppets and characters and stuff like that draws the kids in. So sometimes you
Cool.
just have to be back to that childlike persona when you're trying to promote children's books. So I'm glad that that's working out for you. So I want to know what is next. What are your plans for 2024?
So while I was at this last book fair, I met this local woman who has her own little publishing company.
Mhm.
And so we talked about my books, and she was super excited about the whole theme of the bees, because bees are very popular. And the fact that I'm doing a series, right? Because so she gave me some ideas about, once I get 3 done,
Mhm.
making a little like a box set,
Yes.
because kids love a box set. and
Yes.
and so she was giving me other feedback about the format of the books and some other things that were very helpful. So I'm going to meet up with her in January and have a one-on-one so that she can give me more advice or feedback or coaching about marketing and just some ideas, because I have no idea. I mean, I
Mhm.
have a little bit of an idea, but it can't hurt to get more help.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that, because I really want to spend next year focused on getting the word out more about the books. I want to go to some local libraries and do some readings there for the kids, and maybe at some schools.
Mhm.
So I just have a lot of kind of different ways of getting the word out, and
Mhm.
that's kind of what I'm going to be focused on in 2024. And there's also another book fair that's happening, and well, not until October, but so I'll be participating in that one as well. So yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Awesome. Sounds like a big event for you. And, like I said, there's as many ways to promote a book as there are ways to write a book. For children's books, I always recommend that authors think about doing lesson plans if they want to get into schools, activity sheets, those kinds of things, downloadable items to help parents reach out to homeschooling parents that don't have the resources of schools. So those are all ways, and either way you go, it's just fine. Just, make a plan and keep forging ahead. That's all you can do.
I was thinking about doing a coloring book as well. So just
Uh-huh.
having the outline of the characters or the B characters, and then kids can color them in. So
Yeah.
working on that too.
I did a coloring book for my book series, and it's more similar to that, where we picked a bunch of the illustrations and decolorized them to do the outline. But we put it together more as an activity coloring book where it's an introduction to the characters. So a lot of times we start with that book so that they get to know the characters and then get into the story in the series. So
Very cool.
yeah. All right. Loori Poland, how about you? What is on your radar for 2024?
Yeah, so 2024 is really the year of, I just feel like it's the year of the digging. And so I do intend to dig in. I really would love to make significant headway on these two other books that I'm working on, as well as digging in to creating a greater and more consistent conversation with the general public about it's not what happens to us, but it's what we do with what happens to us. Unfortunately, I've never met anyone that has bypassed childhood. And so that childhood experience leads into who we become and how we exist in the world, the same way that the way that we write, like we learned that somehow. Somebody taught us. Walking, talking, writing, all of it is things that we learned early on, and we don't even pause to say, well, do I want it to be this way? Do I want to walk different? Do I want to have a swag? So it's like really being intentional and helping to educate and inform people about that intentionality. And I would also just plug that my whole goal is to work my way out of a job, because my dream is to just live on a little farm and write books and do yoga and meditate and garden and have a safe place for my someday grandchildren to come and just enjoy life and pause. So if I can do anything that will work me towards that next year, I will be very happy.
Well, I think you're well on your way. It's a nice plan. I always try to work myself out of a job, but I always end up working myself into a new
I
job.
know it doesn't stop.
It seems to follow that way. It's like, yeah, I don't have to do that job anymore, but now I have to do this one.
I know it's a type. I think it's a personality type that just keeps going.
It is. I know me. I would be bored if I wasn't.
I know. The
So,
idea is always better than the reality, right?
yes, this is true. It's like I wanted to retire. I wanted to have time to write, and then when I retired, I didn't write because I was so bored because I had very little interaction, and so there was nothing to spark that
Yeah,
creativity.
to inspire you.
I don't know. Sometimes it's like, the vision isn't quite what we had in mind.
Exactly.
Well, best of luck to you. So what about you, Michael? What does 2024 look like for you?
I mentioned before that I don't have any near future events planned, and that's partly because I really want to kind of, to echo what Loori said, kind of dig in, and I really want to get back to writing heavily again. I think when I was started writing, I think a lot of authors go through this, but you think the life of a writer or a published author is just writing, but then when you publish, it's it's marketing the book, it's promoting, and so I've been spending a lot of time doing that and not being able to actually write, and so I really want to get back into that heavily, other than just, here and there when I can squeeze it in. I want to really focus on it some more and get back into it, because that's what we want to do as writers. So
Yeah, it's always the next book. It's always the next book. And and I mean, while I do encourage everybody to keep working forward, it's like also you have to remember to give yourself grace, because there is so many hours in the day, and life is disruptive. It's
yeah,
like, life is what happens when you're making plans. So, it's and I know our listeners are listening to you guys, and they're like, oh my gosh, they're writing more books, they're doing more, and they're more, and they're probably feeling a little, they're like, like the underdog, not trying hard enough. But that's okay, because it comes in seasons, like what Michael is talking about. It's like, after the book, he had to stop writing so he could market and promote his book, which is what's going to be the vehicle to keep him writing forward. Without that, I doubt that he would have reached, the pinnacle he's at right now, with the number of books sold and the awards and things of that nature. So they all kind of work together. So just digging in and getting it done. And what I say about that is, you just have to make a schedule to try and balance it out. Myself, I actually make appointments twice a week to write. It's on my calendar. It's like nothing else goes in those time slots. That's my writing time. Sometimes it's writing emails, sometimes it's writing books, sometimes it's writing marketing materials, but at least I get
yeah,
some actual writing time in. And then I also have on my calendar, or on my schedule, once a week to spend a day on marketing and promotion. What is my new ideas? What have I done to move those forward? So sometimes it's about organization too. So,
yeah.
all right. So I have another question for you, Michael. What is next? What are you looking to do next? Give us a crystal ball look into the future for you as a writer and author.
Yeah, just that same thing. Just continuing to write and get that next book in the series out, so I can, those fans that enjoyed the first book, I want to be able to let them continue reading. So
Okay, so do we have a potential title for it yet, or a possible release date, month, year?
no, I one of the things I mentioned last time is I don't want to rush it. I think the right thing to do is understand that it doesn't have to be right now. You can take a little bit of time. Taking another 6 weeks, another 6 months is okay. It's not going to get it right, and take your time and not rush it out. So I definitely don't want to do that. At the same time, I want to have aggressive goals to keep me moving forward and keep the ball moving. But yeah, I'm trying real hard to have, probably in the second half of 2024, have something ready to go.
All right,
I,
awesome.
I don't have the title yet, and still working through the plot a little bit. So I'll hold back on giving any more of it away.
That's perfectly all right. Well, at least it gives us something to look forward to towards, the third and fourth quarter of 2024, a new book from Michael Stewart. We'll look forward to that. How about you, Loori Poland? Look in your crystal ball and tell me what's coming up next for you.
Yeah, I think I would love to take a piece out of Lori Krein's book. She talks, I think it was a meditation book, about slowing down in the chaos. And I would say that I have a DO doctor who is a phenomenal human being, and she left her busy practice a couple months ago and went into like her own small little private practice, cash pay. And I was like, what are you doing? How are you gonna survive? And she said, I want to dig my holes deep, not many holes.
Right.
And I thought, oh, right. Like that's the key. And, you know, in order to do anything greatly, you have to do it with great intention.
Mhm.
And sometimes I am a person who loves her to-do list and loves accomplishments and just the satisfaction of checking that box. And even in my last answer, when I was like, I'm going to work on these books and then I'm going to change the world and I'm going to all so that I can slow down and stop. And it's like, wow. Like, that was a little bit of an oxymoron. And I in my clinical practice, I oftentimes call that the graduation mentality. Like, as soon as I graduate, then everything's going to be better. And we just keep moving the goalpost. And I appreciated your comment about our listeners thinking like, oh, I'm comparing, like it's just comparing ourselves to other people and what they're doing and what we're not doing, or what we're doing and what they should be doing. And it just gave me a little bit of pause of, you know, this next little bit, and I'm gonna do what I can and hopefully do it with great intention and knowing what my end goal is, and just try and be as impactful as I can be on everyone and everything around me.
Right.
If I can do that, I'll be happy.
There you go. I had one mentor tell me one time, you should never have more than 3 goals.
Yeah.
For the next day, the next month, the next week, the next year.
Start with
Because
3.
that way you don't feel as scattered. Now, of course, you're going to be doing much more than just the 3, but those should be the ones that you're focused on. So
Yeah, it's good advice.
there you go. All right. What about you, Loori Krein? What is in your 2024 crystal ball?
Well, as I said, the Green Bee, it will be coming out in February. So that's the big thing to get that done. And because this book, the illustrations, the illustrator is going to be using watercolor to complete the drawings. What we did before was he would give me the outline and then I was digitizing them. So I did a lot of the work. Once the drawings were done, I had to put them into the computer and do all that. And this time we're just going to use the ones that he does. They're going to be complete. So we've already got, I think he only has 2 more to do. So it's pretty close to being finished. Excuse me. So that's what I'm going to focus on, is getting that out and getting it out in the world.
Okay, well, that takes you to February. What are you going to do for the other 10 months?
Good question. I'm going to start working on the next book.
All right. Well, see, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, so the idea for the one after that is going to be more of an environmental focus. I haven't quite got it all solidified yet, but it's going to be something about saving the bees
There you go.
from what's happening in the world with the environment and the pesticides that are being put on plants, and the bees are dying. So I'm going to wrap my brain around that.
Maybe beekeep.
Beekeep. I'll write that down.
Well, let's see what that happens. It's like, I'd be so excited. I love working on titles. That's one of my fun things. All right. Now we're going to get to the serious part. So I want you to share with our listeners what your best, most surprising, or most memorable moment was from your interview that we did earlier this year.
Well, I have to think back on that. I think it was, the focus of it, as we discussed earlier, was doing reviews. So I had never really thought about it that much before. I was like, just get them out there, tell my friends about it. And once we did the episode, I reached out to everybody, because at that point I hadn't sold that many. I reached out to a few people who had bought the book, especially people I knew, and I was like, did you like it? Yeah, great. Could you please write a review? And I specifically asked, directly asked them, and a couple of people were like, I don't really have time, or I'd love to do it, but I'm not sure what. And so I wrote a review for them. I mean, am I supposed to admit this? Probably not. Right?
You wrote a suggested review is what you did.
Yeah, exactly. I did a suggested review, and then they revised it, but giving them something to work on or to look at. And then they changed it or whatever, but that prompted them to do it. So that was really helpful.
Right. Well, and as we talked about all of season 2, reviews don't have to be complicated or complex. They can simply be, I like this book, or I didn't like
Exactly.
this book, or I think, children of this age group would like it, or adults of this age group, or somebody that's on this particular topic would like it. It doesn't have to be complicated, and you don't have to be a wordsmith. You don't have to be an author or a writer to write a review. It's honestly an opinion. So we all
Exactly.
have those. We know we all have those.
And I think too, what happened was after doing the podcast, I kind of started to take myself a little more seriously as a writer. And because before that, I kind of was, this is just a little side hobby. And then after the episode, I was, sharing the link to all my social media, and I just felt like all of a sudden I was like a legitimate children's book author. and that felt, that was like kind of like I felt like I leapfrogged from here to there. So it just put me in a different mindset about it, like, hey, this is pretty cool. And I started to get a lot more feedback from people about the books, and I was like, my job is not just to write the book, I got to get it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
they're good, and they're funny, and people respond to them. So thank you very much for sort of helping me to take myself a little more seriously, because if I don't take myself seriously, nobody else will.
Well, this is true, and you're very welcome. And all I do is sit here and ask a bunch of questions and read books and drink coffee. I mean, it's like my joy trifecta here. So it's all I do, and I love it. And if anybody else gets anything out of it, then it's just extra gravy for me.
Awesome. Great. The way it should be.
There you go. All right. What about you, Michael? What was the best, most memorable, or the most surprising moment from your interview back in June?
I think the thing that always keeps just popping into my mind with that interview, and then the interview today, really is I always forget how it's nice to talk to other writers who kind of, I guess, speak the same language, because we all the three of us, the guests here on today, we've got a children's author, a nonfiction author about a very serious topic, and then a thriller fiction author. And the three of us have a lot of differences, but I think we still have a lot of things in common, being writers. And so anytime there's interaction like this, it just reminds me how we have this community, and how we can again, being a lot of times you don't, in your day-to-day life, you might not talk to other writers or interact with other writers very often, and it feels a little lonely sometimes, because again, we kind of speak a certain language, that the same language, and so it's always nice to know that there's this community of writers that kind of think the same.
Yeah, it is. And I'm always so impressed with my audience that, I mean, seriously, you guys are the top episodes. Children's author, a thriller, an education thriller, and child abuse. It's like, who would ever think that all of those would come together in a podcast and work and make it to the top?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we must be doing something right. And you guys, whatever you're talking about is resonating with the audience. And I couldn't ask for more than that. So thank you. And yeah, that's what I want, is a community of authors and writers, so that they don't feel alone, so that they find a safe space to be together and talk and exchange information. When I first started writing, I didn't get a lot of help. I found a lot of brick walls that I ran into, a lot of closed doors, and I felt like we need to change that. We're not in competition with each other. We're in competition with the space on the bookshelf.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So what about you, Loori Poland? What was your favorite, most memorable, most exciting, most surprising moment?
Yeah, and I think we've touched on it so much already, just in this discussion right here. And that was, you have a way of, first you have, it's like you have a whole book of quotes, first of all, of just like good gems of
Mhm.
like, oh, right. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, you know, and every time I heard that in our interview, I felt like I was with like a mother figure that would just, it was like a sense of telling me that it's okay.
Mhm.
And that, um, you know, for me, my book was so personal that I thought I was like out on this leprosy island, you know, in this personal world all by myself. And then what I realized, and even Michael just touched on it, is that it's, it's the topic itself is, and I don't even see it as like competition on the bookshelf, because it's really, it goes back to everybody has a different need and opinion. And like some days I don't want to read a fiction novel. Some days
Right.
I want to just get dirty with a nonfiction. And then some days I need to read, you know, a self-help book. And other days I just want to read a funny poetry book or a Shel Silverstein style, right? Like, so it's just neat that I'm providing a support. And I didn't think that that was, when I wrote it, that wasn't necessarily why I wrote it. I wrote it because I wanted people to understand. And, but it's just become so much more. And our episode really enlightened me on the writer world instead of just like the Loori world, the Loori Island, out in the middle of the Pacific. So that was fun for me.
Well, awesome. You know, and that's what I like to talk to people about is it doesn't matter what you write about. There's always somebody out there and there's always these crossover because I know there are days that I want to read children's books because I want to laugh and I want to be joyful and I want to be happy and just, you know, back to my childhood. There's days where I love Michael's books where I'm like pushed to the edge and I'm biting my nails and I'm just like, what's happening next? What's happening next? Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And then there are days where I'm very circumspect and I want to read a book like yours and think about what that would have been like and try to understand that, you know, this is something more than I could ever comprehend.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then there's days when I want to read a self-help book and just learn something new. So, you know, that's why I say we're only in competition with space on that shelf because I can guarantee if you go look at my my bookshelf, you'll see a
Oh,
plethora of genres and authors and styles and
just
stories
right
and that's what
here.
I
Every one of these books right here is totally different meaning.
yeah. But you know, but that's what I love about books is they open doors rather than close them.
Mhm.
So can't think of a better thing. All right. So I have one final question for you, Loori Poland. What was your reaction when you were told you were a top episode?
I was shocked. I was like, what? Seriously? I mean, like, of all these other writers who are like so gifted and talented. I mean, I heard about you from somebody in North Carolina,
Mhm.
and you're on the West Coast, I think in Oregon, right? Or something like,
In Sacramento, California.
okay, yeah. So as far west as possible. I
Yep.
was like, there's no way. And then with the number of audiences, I think I am certainly my worst critic. And so I was really surprised and humbled and grateful and like I and I just sighed. I was like, okay, cool. That's really cool. So, and then to know that and learn about the two other authors on here, I was like, I loved the diversification. I loved that it wasn't like all sci-fi or all self-help or all poetry or all children's. We really cover it all.
There you go.
So that was really neat.
Yes, yes. Well, I'm so glad you're here. And of course, you know, all you're doing, you know, the audience brought you here. They loved your episode. And so congratulations.
Thanks a lot. Thanks,
You're very
listeners,
welcome.
too.
What about you, Michael? What was your reaction when you found out?
Uh, yeah, just I mean, first of all, just honored because I, you know, respect the show so much, and um, I know how popular it is and how many listeners and viewers you have. So to be a part of that is great, and and to be on with these two other authors, which are be on the same stage, is just really cool. And I think part of the reason I can at least speak for how, the episode that I was on. I think it was a good listen because it has a good host. You know how to ask questions and make the guest sound better than they would otherwise. So I really appreciate that. I can speak for, at least for me, that way.
Well, it's like beyond everything else that I do, all the other hats that I wear, I'm also an author. I also get nervous when I'm being interviewed, and it gives
Yeah.
me a unique perspective when I'm asking those questions to understand that they're going to be a little nervous, they're going to be a little hesitant, and we're always waiting for that gotcha question. So what do I tell you guys at the beginning? No gotcha questions. No gotchas. We're not doing that. And I usually try to get you guys the questions ahead of time, so there's no surprises either. And thank you. I appreciate that. It's, I try really hard to make my guests comfortable, because I think that makes the conversation flow so much better. And I think it provides the listeners and the audience with a much better interview and episode, where they get to see the real you and see the passion behind all of the writing that you guys do.
Yeah.
All right. What about you, Loori Krein? What was your reaction?
Well, I wasn't surprised at all. I mean, it was such a great episode. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. um, the funny thing is that I wrote the poems for these books about 20 years ago when my kids were little. And I think I mentioned on there that I sent them actually mailed them, because there was no internet back then. I mailed them to 10 children's book publishers that I had to look up in the library or whatever. And I got back 10 rejections.
Wow.
And then they stuck them in a drawer. And it took all this time for me to get them back and find somebody who could do the illustrations and make them come to life. So when when you reached out to me to be interviewed, I was just, again, like, I didn't feel like I was legitimate in some way. And so just to come full circle now, my older son just got married a couple of years ago, and they're talking about having kids. And it's just interesting how, like, come full circle after 20 something years, to put these out in the world, and then to have the response and hear that it was like one of the top episodes was I think my job in life is to show up.
Mhm.
Right. If we can just show up to whatever it is that we're doing, like you're passionate about doing the podcast, right? So
Mhm.
you're showing up by doing what you love. And if we show up and do what we love, and the world responds to us in a positive way, then it just perpetuates itself, right? It's like a self-generating machine. Like, I put myself out there, people respond positively, so I put myself out there more, and it just kind of keeps going. And
Mhm.
so I think what we have to do is just give it a try and see what happens. And so getting these books out there, it was a lot of work, but once I got it out there and then I started to get the responses, it just kind of kept going. So I just feel like there's like momentum happening, and being on this podcast was a huge pivot point for me in keeping the momentum going. So I just, again, I'm so grateful for you and for you for doing, and for you to show up in doing what you love, and that helps us. So it's all amazing.
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. And congratulations to you. Also, congratulations to you, Michael, and you, Loori Poland. I mean, you guys did an amazing job. Something about your words and your interview drew in the viewers, and they voted you guys to the top. So I'm just very impressed. You're all new authors, so that's always exciting. You always tend to think, oh, well, it's the established authors that are gonna, but here you are proving everybody that there is a way. There
Yeah.
is a world where even the new authors can rise to the top. And so I'm so thankful that you guys took a chance with the Writer's Parachute and coming on here and choosing us and choosing me to bring your book out into the world and introduce you out into the world. And obviously it did well. So I'm just going to go around the room one more time and ask you if there's anything else that you would like to share with the audience while you have their attention. Loori Krein.
I guess all I can say is check out the books, go on my website, loorikrein.com, and sign up for the, buy the books and then sign up for the next one. And that would be great. And write me some reviews if you like them.
All right. What about you, Michael?
Yeah, we're always talking about reviews, and we've talked a lot about reviews. So I'm not going to try to sell my book one more time. I'll just ask you to go read a few reviews of it yourself, and I'll let those sell it, because there's good reviews on there. And so just check out the reviews and see if you might be interested.
Awesome. I think they will be. All right. What about you, Loori Poland?
Yeah, I mean, I would say first, thank you for making space for listening and following this podcast in the first place. It means that you're invested in the power of story and the narrative of writing. And I think that is profound. And that is how how our world has continued to grow and learn, is just through writing it down all the way back to the very beginning. That's what hieroglyphics were. So, and then in terms of my book, it's a great, I feel like it's a strong blend of a hard story that's filled with optimism and hope, because I'm literally sitting here. And then also with a lot of self-help opportunity for people to better understand and to become their best versions of who they want to be. No matter who we are or what we do, we get to decide our own destiny. And I would just empower people to know that about themselves. So I never thought that I would be a published author, and here I sit. So proud of that.
There you go. Well, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here on the Writer's Parachute, being part of the DC Storyology family. And I want to remind all of our listeners to go check out episode number 3 with Loori Krein, Writing Your Way Through, talking about Learn Chess, A Reason to Believe, and Clean B. Also, episode number 4 with Loori Poland, Beyond the Pain, and her book, I Live Here. And don't forget episode number 8 with Michael Stewart, a thriller education, in his book, The Hills Be Shaking. Of course, we'll have in the show notes a link for you to reach out to each of them. We'll also link you to their books and any contact information and information that they gave us about upcoming events. As always, we appreciate you as our audience so much, and this is a celebration. We wanted to thank you for voting these 3 authors to the top of the list, and we hope that you come back and join us and keep watching. We're going to bring you more stuff, and of course we'll bring these 3 authors back anytime they have new books that we can talk about and get an update on their journey. Until next time, keep writing, keep reading, keep reviewing. Okay, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
And
Bye.
Bye.